Has Dr. Joel helped make your life a little happier and healthier? Consider supporting the show for as little as $1 a month so we can continue to bring you the content you love. Just go to patreon.com/JoelWade. That's patreon.com/JoelWade. $1 a month. It's all we ask.
You are now listening to the Mastering Happiness podcast with Dr. Joel Wade.
Can you imagine different possible futures for yourself? Or is there only one future that you believe will make you happy? This is one of those questions that can make a big difference in our overall happiness and well-being, and our answer can affect the quality of our relationships and possibilities for success. Let's explore this today. I'm Joel Wade, and welcome to my podcast. Much has been made in popular psychology over the years of how important it is to envision our goals. In an earlier podcast, Visualizing the Journey and the Destination, I went into some detail about the potential dangers of this and how to effectively aim ourselves toward our goals and toward the vision of the future we'd like without the pitfalls. But this is such an important topic, and working with people as a life coach, I often see how a certain kind of vision can make people miserable even when they have almost everything they could ever want, that it's really worth taking a deeper dive into it today. To put it bluntly, if you have only one vision of your future that you think will make you happy, and you won't allow for anything other than that, then you're setting yourself up for misery. First, the upside of our vision. It's one of the great gifts of humankind that we're able to imagine possible futures, possible opportunities, possible problems, and possible solutions. It's what allows us to create and innovate. If you look around you and you see anything more than whatever happens to exist in nature, and that includes the clothes on your back and most of the knowledge in your head, then you're seeing what human beings have created, and those creations all required vision. Without the ability to imagine different futures, if humankind existed at all, it would be in a state of pure nature, guided by instincts. Our ability to imagine and find ways to bring what we imagine into being is, in many ways, what makes us human. But, as with any strength, how we use it is what makes all the difference. Over the nearly 40 years I've been working with people as a marriage family therapist and a life coach, I've seen so many people whose lives were being ruined by holding on too tightly to an ideal vision of the future. There are people who wish for a perfect spouse, while right there with them is a perfectly wonderful human being they're already married to, with whom they've already built a good life. As long as they're imagining and wishing for their current ideal of perfection, they'll never be happy with the one they're with, even though their actual mate might be 95% of what they wish for. That 5% shortfall can become an obsession. As long as they're dreaming of perfection, all they'll see is what's missing. I've known people worth many millions of dollars, but their vision was of some higher figure, maybe 50 or 100 million. When someone's this attached to a particular outcome, it almost wouldn't matter that they were worth $99 million. Everything up to the specific figure they envision is a disappointment. Olympic silver medalists are less happy than gold medalists, and interestingly, even less happy than the bronze medalists they bested. Something about having the expectation of total victory and just missing it creates an unhappy dynamic. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a goal, and a big goal, a vision of a possible future. But when we invest everything in the necessity of it coming true in perfect detail, we're missing the point. A vision gives us a direction, a point toward which to aim ourselves. But when we reach that point, if we reach that point, that achievement in itself will be just a moment in time. If along the way we've been miserable, angry, dissatisfied, grumpy, and mean, then we won't really have much to celebrate, even if we get everything we'd hoped for in that moment. The achievement will feel empty as the regrets begin to seep in of the time spent being miserable up until that moment of achievement. People say it's the journey, not the destination, that matters. That saying serves to make a strong point, but it's not altogether true. The destination does matter. It's just the journey has to matter, too. For one thing, we often don't have control over whether we ultimately reach our goals. I may have worked harder than anybody in the pursuit of a gold medal, but if my opponent has a better day that day, or my team doesn't come together as well as the other team, or any number of other factors lead to not winning the game or match or race, I won't win that gold medal. I may have done absolutely everything humanly possible to reach my goal of earning $100 million, but still, there just might not be enough business in my field to get to that exact figure. And if I'm trying to make my husband or wife become the vision of who I think they should be, I've already failed terribly at being a happy mate myself, because we can never, ever make another person be who we want them to be. And every moment I spend wishing that they were different than they are is a moment I'm spending not loving them and eroding the trust and safety on which a happy marriage is actually built. In fact, when we get too caught up in a specific vision that must come true at all costs, we're also ensuring that we'll become fairly mean in the process, because anyone who doesn't live up to our expectations will be a threat to our success. If we're desperate enough that we must have what we envision, then we can get critical, impatient, and pretty darned harsh toward anyone who seems to get in our way, or who doesn't measure up. In the extreme, it can get to the point where we start to see other people as things serving our ends, rather than human beings with their own experience, feelings, and vision. That's no way to live, not on the attacking end, and certainly not on the receiving end. When we aim ourselves toward a vision of what we'd like, it's essential that we move almost immediately to defining how we will solve the problems in the real world of getting from here to there. That will likely include lots of challenges and setbacks along the way, and no guarantee of success. If that process, what we're committing a significant amount of time and energy toward, isn't fulfilling in itself, then we'd better find another vision. Also, and I don't want to be a downer here, but if you think of your vision of the future, does it include anything at all that you don't like? Our ideals tend to be, well, ideal. When we imagine something, we can pretty much make anything true in our mind's eye, mentally photoshopping out the yucky parts. We can have a dog sledding trip without feeling cold, a garden without bugs, a swim in the ocean without salt in our eyes. We can have a business without shortfalls, a job without disappointment, a relationship without conflict. Then we get to the real world, and even if everything turns out as we'd hoped, there will be some parts of it that are messier than our ideal had prepared us for. The truth is, you might already be living your dream, but you didn't know that there was hard work and conflict in that dream, as there is in any life. You get that dream job and find that you have to also take out the garbage or make unpleasant phone calls. You find that wonderful person and find that they don't agree with everything you think or feel. You have wonderful children and find that they don't come into the world perfectly behaved and always adorable. And there are nights of not sleeping, days with meltdowns. There's always something we have to deal with that we would rather not deal with in any situation, even the most wonderful ones. If we're thinking otherwise, we're going to be miserable, and there's no way around that, except to question the fundamental premise that our ideal vision needs to come true exactly as we wish. Which brings us back to my original question. Can you imagine different possible futures for yourself? Or is there only one future that you believe will make you happy? Often, with a long-term goal, our original inspiration or vision ends up morphing, adapting to new knowledge and experience, so that 5 years later, it looks much different than we could have imagined at first. If we're gripping too tightly to that original vision, we lose the flexibility, the adaptability that allows us to learn and grow and revise our vision to be richer, more complex, and more mature than what we first aimed for. We're not machines or computers. We're biological. Our growth is not usually a straight line. It moves in more of a pulsation, expanding and contracting, and mutating toward more expansive possibilities. The challenge is to hold to our commitments while at the same time being open to learning and adapting to changing circumstances, unexpected problems, and emerging opportunities. If we're too attached to a single possible outcome, we'll be much too rigid to grow in the messy way that biological organisms do. So, if we're too attached to a single outcome, if we find that we only really have one future that we believe will make us happy, what's the way out? How can we get unstuck from such a bind? The antidote to such a closed vision, where only one possible future can be satisfying and happy, is a strong dose of gratitude. As important as it may be to have a vision for where we want to go, a vision essentially involves paying attention to what we don't have that we want. A better job, a great relationship, a more expansive life. If we spend much time focusing on what we don't have, the world begins to feel smaller and more disappointing. Gratitude essentially involves paying attention to what we do have, the blessings that life has brought us, the good people and opportunities that have come to us. It's so easy to take all that we have for granted. But let's back up a few steps here. Everything that exists beyond a state of pure nature and instincts was created by human beings. Everything. All the different forms of shelter, from the most primitive lean-to made of sticks and brush, to the most glorious mansion, was invented and refined by other people. Every form of food beyond raw roots, berries, and maybe insects have been made available by somebody's ingenuity. Even the ability to hunt small game with a spear or snare was a gift handed down to us from distant unknown innovators. Romantic love is a human invention, and the growth of reason, empathy, and the remarkable decrease in violence are things we've inherited from our conscientious forebears. Consider that most of us in the West have clean-running hot and cold water, heated shelter, and abundant food and supplies from multiple stores, not to mention transportation beyond walking, healthcare, computers, cell phones, and the internet, and you can begin to see the fantastic baseline of gifts from our ancestors. People created these things, and people continue to supply them to the point where we all take most of these things very much as a foundation of existence, as though nature herself provided them. When we take the time and shift our perspective like this, to appreciate what we get to start with, our wishes for the future can become starkly miraculous, as far from the past of our generous ancestors as the most amazing science fiction we could possibly imagine. From this perspective, how much difference does it make, really, if your net worth is only $3 million instead of $100 million? How important is it that your mate, who's 95% wonderful, doesn't conform him or herself to your ideal of perfection? How important is it that the work you do also involves doing some things from time to time that aren't very enjoyable? From this perspective, can you allow yourself to let go some of the death grip you have on a particular ideal vision? And from this perspective, can you allow yourself to truly appreciate the good people in your life, the wonderful opportunities you've been blessed with, and even the problems that you've had to wrestle with that have made you stronger and wiser over time? Gratitude is one of the easiest qualities to grow, and one of the most potent antidotes to a negative emotional state. The simplest acts of gratitude can help to draw us out of depression, orient us from self-absorption to connection with others, and provide a solid footing to begin to move toward a better life. Gratitude is the sense that we are getting a lot of what we want and need, that we're getting a lot of our needs met, that there are resources and options. It creates an open loop with many possibilities. Gratitude is the antidote to an unhealthy, rigid vision for our future. Because the stance from a perspective of gratitude is of abundance and expansion, many different visions can be satisfying and happy. And from this broader perspective, when many different futures can bring us happiness and satisfaction, the intense anxiety that a rigid vision fuels can lift, and the sense of trust, serenity, and safety that allows for deeper human connections can also flourish. And this is what creates the basis for a truly benevolent cycle, where love, creativity, and hard work can lead us beyond what we could have otherwise imagined. A Master's Course in Happiness is a monthly, in-depth program to help you actively, purposefully, and effectively live a happier, more fulfilling life. This course is designed to teach you the skills and principles that you need to bring the best you have to offer, inside and out. Over the course of 12 months, we'll explore what I've found are many of the fundamentals of living well. Through audio, video, and written material, you're supported to learn and practice specific actions each month that will strengthen you, inspire you, and enable you to lean into life more fully. These are skills and principles for self-mastery across all the circumstances and personalities I have ever worked with for nearly 4 decades, based on solid research and experience. And right now, exclusively for my listeners, you can experience the Master's Course in Happiness at a great discount. Use promo code MH1, promo in all capitals, to get this $467 course for only $295 today. Visit www.drjoelwade.com. That's drjoelwade.com now, and use promo code MH1promo to receive this amazing course for only $295. A Master's Course in Happiness is designed to give you the most powerful skills that I can offer in a course. It will give you the tools and knowledge to apply yourself fully to the mission of mastering yourself. That's www.drjoelwade.com, promo code MH1, promo, all in capitals.